two, 1, 2, 3.
There are books that are good, there are books that are bad. There's some books so fucking awful you wish you never had read them at all, 'cause a novel can ruin your life. Hey buddy, I don't even own a television.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to I Don't Even Own a Television, a podcast about bad books. I am your host, Mr. J.W. Friedman, and with me today is a screenwriter, sports columnist, blogger, podcast personality, and recently married individual, Bill Hanstock. How is it going?
It's good. Thanks for asking.
Awesome. It's really good to have you here. I'm a fan of your work and your Twitter feed, and I think you picked an excellent book here. I don't know if you want to tell the people at home what we're going to be talking about.
Yeah, we're going to be talking about probably the worst book I've ever read. It's called Paranoia by an author by the name of Joseph Finder. And do you want me to tell you how I came to this book initially?
Yeah, I'm curious actually because I had never heard of it when you recommended it, and it doesn't seem to have been, a smash success or anything. So
Yeah, from 2006 to 2009, I was working at Cisco in Milpitas,
Okay.
San Jose. And one of the gentlemen that I worked with at Cisco, I don't know how he came across this book, but he was reading this book at his lunch break one day, and he was like, "Oh, this book's fantastic. You got to check this book out. It's basically exactly like where we work."
yeah.
And then he gave me the book, and I read it in like 2 days, and then my roommate's dog ate the book, so I had to buy him a new copy of this book. So then I owned a dog-eaten copy that I eventually tossed out, and I was taken aback at how awful the book was. It was just so brutally bad, and the saving grace of it is that you can read it in like just a handful of hours.
Yeah.
But he actually, Joseph Finder actually did do research at Cisco, which is why the book reads so much like working at Cisco, is because he just went to Cisco and he's like, "Oh, hey, let me do research of communications companies. Cisco is one of those."
Yeah, the back section of the book is about 3 pages of acknowledgments where he is like specifically mentioning heads of corporate security at various companies by name, and all the people he interviewed about tech things, because this is sort of a techie book. It's supposed to be, I guess. I don't know. We'll get into that in a second here when we attempt to describe this nonsense to people. But basically, I think at a high overview, this was probably the first example that I've run across, at least, of what I'd describe as tech bro espionage. This is like a John Grisham novel if John Grisham wrote novels about Google employees.
Yeah, that's pretty accurate.
Yeah, I don't know, and it's very bad. But yeah, I guess we should probably explain basically what's going on here.
Sure.
Yeah, I don't know if you want to kind of give a rundown here, or I can jump in, whichever.
We don't do plot in 60 seconds
No,
anymore?
plot in 60 seconds. Well, yeah, we'll do it this time. I'm working on something new. There's a lot of big changes coming down the pike here, and
Ooh.
yeah, one of them is attempting to make it a little easier for people to understand what a book is about if they haven't read it. So I figure doing a fail condition of jamming everything into a minute probably isn't the best way to do that. But if you'd like to take an attempt, we can do it for fun.
I would like to try plot in 60 seconds since I'm such a long-time listener of the show.
Awesome. Okay, well, let's do that, and then we can backfill with exposition as needed.
Sure.
So, yeah, are you ready?
Sure. I am.
All right, here is a song.
Nobody knows if you finish or not. You got 60 seconds to give them a plot. Plot in 60 seconds.
Okay, and begin.
Okay, so layabout schlub bro Adam Cassidy is the book describes him as a junior staffer at Wyatt Telecom, and he throws a going away party for a loading dock guy, Jonesy. And to throw this loading dock party, he embezzles funds from his company and uses the corporate credit card and a bunch of corporate perks to throw this big lavish party for no reason. and he gets in trouble and threatened to be thrown in prison for 30 years. And the CEO of Wyatt Telecom, Nick Wyatt, tells Adam that he will not turn him over to the cops if Adam agrees to become a technological corporate spy. So he gets a fake personality and ID, and he goes undercover at Tryon Systems, which is their chief competitor, and he's supposed to steal a top secret device. That's basically it.
Awesome. Yeah, that was, you had 4 seconds to go, so good job.
Phew.
We didn't get to the big twist. I guess I should probably warn everybody here. If you plan on reading this book, it revolves almost completely around the last 10 pages being like, holy shit, I didn't expect that. And we're going to talk about it, so just be forewarned.
I also forgot to mention his abusive father.
Yeah, his father, who's like abusive, like in a cartoon villain way. He's like, he's really like down on him verbally and is just always telling him, you shouldn't try to be special. You're not special. You're poor like me.
Well, one of the craziest things in rereading this book was how enormous of an asshole his father is and how legitimately abusive he is, because he talks about how his dad used to smack the crap out of him when he was a kid, and his dad like broke his arm once.
Yeah, that's true. That kind of...
And like his dad was like a hockey coach for like a bunch of high schools, but he kept getting fired from high schools because he would beat the shit out of the children.
Yeah.
And so like there's all this backstory about his dad, how his dad's a genuinely awful person. But everyone treats him as, like, everyone in the book is like, well, what can you do? He's your dad. You gotta love him anyway.
Yeah, he's also a horrible racist, and he keeps going through at-home nurses. He's terminally ill, and he keeps going through at-home nurses because if they're women, he, like, gets really creepy and gross with them. And if they're not white, he yells racist things at them. And he used to beat the shit out of the main character, I guess, and various other hockey-playing teens. But yeah, it's really played very casually. It's never made out to be a huge plot point or anything. It's just kind of...
Yeah, like his racism, like he gets a black live-in house nurse, I guess, facilitator,
yeah, like assistant
caretaker,
care employee. Yeah. I don't know, something.
And like actually I feel like that character is like probably the best character in the book, and they left him out of the movie, which I'm sure we'll get to the movie in a bit. But I feel like that character is like the best character in the book, yet like it's sort of like he shows up and it's like, oh, here's a good-natured guy who can tolerate this awful racist who's abusive. Ho-hum, I guess that took care of itself, but the dad like doesn't stop being horribly racist.
No, he just
awful.
finds a guy who's like whatever about it, like
and then all the way up until after, spoiler, the dad dies, like he dies and everyone's giving him shit for like not answering his phone, like you really should have been here, Adam, your dad was asking for you or whatever, like, like we tried to get a hold of you. You should have been here. And then he's like, all broken up about his dad dying. And everyone's like, I know you had some problems with him, man, but you gotta love him. You gotta learn to, remember him and keep him in your heart. It's like, no.
Yeah.
Like everyone in this book has such a terrible understanding of like abuse and
how to be a human being. There's
right.
that too. Let's talk about the protagonist a little bit here, because his name's Adam Cassidy. He's in software or hardware of some variety, some kind of tech job. He does project management, and he's a cocky prick. So.
I think he's actually just supposed to be like in sales.
Yeah, maybe. Either way, he's really, really not a likable character. I think he's supposed to be. But, oh God, I was curious about this, actually, because... I live in San Francisco and you don't, and I'm wondering almost if maybe I just come to this character with a bias, because he reminds me a lot of like assholes that ride razor scooters down Market Street before like on their way to their jobs. So I was curious if he rubbed you in a similar way or not.
Well, I'm from Northern California. I lived in the Bay Area a lot.
Oh yeah.
And so the first time I read the book, like those many years ago, I also was struck at like, this guy's a real fucking asshole, but he's supposed to be the hero, and I didn't get it. And this time when I read it, I think he might actually, I think Joseph Finder might actually intend for him to be a raging asshole.
Okay.
Like a 25-year-old who thinks he's hot shit. Because some of the passages of like what this guy's into and like how he like behaves and how he talks and his monologue, like, I don't know, because if Joseph Finder doesn't intend for him to be an asshole, he's the worst protagonist of all time.
This is the first non-ironic usage of the phrase bodacious tatas I've ever encountered. And yeah,
yes,
that pretty much says what you need to know about this character, I think.
Yeah.
He one of my favorite moments in the book is towards the beginning, where he's driving to his first day at his spy job.
Yes.
And,
yes, I have this highlighted.
Yeah. Well, why don't you go ahead then? You know what I'm going to say.
Right. When I got into the silver Audi A6, which still had that new car smell, I felt more high-end, and to celebrate my new station in life, I stopped at a Starbucks and got a triple grande latte, almost $4 for a goddamned cup of coffee. But hey, I was making the big bucks now. I cranked up the volume on Rage Against the Machine all the way to the Tryon campus, so that by the time I got there, Zach De La Rocha was screaming bullet in the head, and I was screaming no escape from the mass mind rape along with him. Something my perfect corporate Zegna suit and tie and Cole Haan shoes. Oh, sorry. Wearing my perfect corporate Zegna suit and tie and Cole Haan shoes. I was pumped.
Yeah. Although it's interesting because when I read that, earlier today, I really took that as like, look at this cordy author, like trying to be like, oh, this is what a young 20s guy would say and think. But now that you mentioned the possibility that maybe he was supposed to be drawn as an idiot, I could kind of see that dichotomy between the suit phrase and the Rage Against the Machine being a little more intentional, I guess. It's really silly no matter how it's supposed to be, though.
And he basically, so he's given like all these, he's pumped full of information, and he's groomed to look like a young 20s genius, corporate climber, software expert. So he's pumped full of all this information, and they basically recruit him because he's an expert bullshit artist. And so they give him all this information about, the company that he's going to go work for, or the company he's already worked for, and people like coworkers that he's going to run into. So they give him a file on this woman, Alana, who he basically stalks.
Yeah.
And then dates, and like only through like the big twist reveal at the end does it become like a little bit okay that he stalks her.
Yeah.
But he's given this dossier on Alana Jennings, and he looks through it, and his initial response is, this Alana Jennings was, not to put too fine a point on it, a real hottie.
Yeah. Man, we have like all the same things highlighted. This is awesome.
And then later, he's stalking this woman, and he runs into her at a tennis club, and his description of meeting her for the first time, and this is where your aforementioned quote comes in. A couple minutes later, I saw her. You couldn't miss this, babe. She was wearing a Fred Perry shirt, and she had, for some reason, the surveillance photos didn't really show this, bodacious tatas.
Yes. And
her blue eyes... Sorry.
Oh, no, I was just going to say the Fred Perry thing cracked me up, too. This book is obsessed with brand names in, that's really a pet peeve of mine lately, unless it's done for stylistic intention, obviously. Like
Bret Easton Ellis.
Like American Psycho, I think, is the obvious example or whatever.
Right.
But like this book, just for no reason, will just randomly tell you, the brand of what phone somebody's using, or, like their tennis racket, or which chain restaurants they eat at. And it's really weird. It feels like a really kind of a forced way to make this feel like a real world situation. And, yeah, it's something that's really been leaping out at me a lot lately in bad books. Girl with the Dragon Tattoo series has a real problem with this too.
Yes.
Yeah, and I definitely got that vibe from parts of this book.
The problem with this book is not knowing the intent of the author. It's really hard to, because if he's intentionally trying to make this guy like a piece of shit prick 25-year-old, a 25-year-old would absolutely be like, yeah, it's an Audi A6. Oh, my shoes, they're Cole Haan.
That's true.
He would absolutely do that. But if he's not if he's intending to make the protagonist of this book likable, then that's just awful.
I think honestly, there's an attempt at an arc here, and he does eventually become, I think, what a reasonable facsimile of a likable character. At the beginning, he is a huge prick, though. But yeah, I do agree that not knowing the intention of the author really muddies the water. And there's a movie of this, which I definitely wanted to talk about a little bit, that muddies the water even farther, I think, as far as whether or not this character is supposed to be likable. Because in the movie, it's like he's almost like a shaky dog, like, what a good guy, like, just trying to get by in this corporate world. And there's really none of, like, the bullshit that's evinced when you're actually reading his thought process. I don't know.
Right. Well, there's a really awesome passage, not awesome in the sense of it being good, but there's an amazing passage on it later in the book. Like, as soon as he like gets a new apartment and starts making all this money, he starts treating his old friend like absolute shit.
Yeah, that is true.
And so he's giving his old friend who shows up out of nowhere, he's giving him a tour of his 2,000 square foot apartment. I gave him the tour. He said funny cutting stuff like, if that's a library, don't you need to have books? And now all you need to furnish the bedroom is a babe. He said my apartment was sick and ill, which was his pseudo gangsta way of saying he liked it. Yeah,
there are times when the ball gets pretty seriously dropped on young people speak here. So.
Also, he's worried about his haircut looking fruity when he first gets it, and then his friend, when he shows up, says, "Don't you think your haircut's sort of fruity?"
Yeah, this is a world where early 20s dudes just use the word fruity willy-nilly like that. It's something that happens a lot.
And the other super weird thing about this book is it's written like before smartphones became a thing. Like, it's written like right before smartphones became a thing. So like everyone's talking about like, oh, we got to find the next PDA that's gonna break the mold. Like, everyone's like using PDAs.
Yeah, and they invent one that's too good, so it would have to be too expensive. And he comes up with the amazing idea of, we can market this to the military and stuff. And that's kind of like how he becomes recognized as a genius.
I also like the idea that like to get this guy in, like to fully get this guy in to the other company, the company that he's like secretly working for is willing to like give this company big wins.
Yeah. Well, it becomes clear in the end.
Right. Real quick. So the company that he starts out working for, Wyatt Telecom, is run by Nick Wyatt, who the first time I read this book, I was thinking like in my mind, based on the description of Nick Wyatt, the only person I ever had in my mind was Vince McMahon.
Oh my God, totally.
Like, because they just basically describe Vince McMahon. Like, that's what, like, can I read the description of him?
Yeah, although go ahead and read it first, then I'm...
So, people said he'd mellowed a lot since the early years, but from what? He was viciously competitive, a weightlifter, and triathlete.
Oh, shit.
Guys who worked out in the company gym, said he was always challenging the serious jocks to chin-up competitions. He never lost, and when the other guy gave up, he'd taunt, "Want me to keep going?" They said he had the body of Arnold Schwarzenegger, like a brown condom stuffed with walnuts.
Oh my God. That's pretty evocative, actually. I like that.
Definitely. So when I was reading this, like, the only thing I ever had in my mind for this guy, because he basically acts exactly like Vince McMahon and is supposedly an old bodybuilder.
Yeah.
And when I saw that they had made this into a movie starring Harrison Ford and Gary Oldman, in my mind, I'm like, well, obviously Harrison Ford plays Nick Wyatt because Harrison Ford's a bitter old shithead.
Yeah. Who's kind of buff and
right.
looks a bit like walnuts or whatever it was.
Yeah, he's brown, sure.
A lumpy mattress filled with walnuts or whatever.
He's got one earring. but then Gary Oldman plays that role in the movie, so it doesn't. And Gary Oldman doesn't even do an American accent.
No. Yeah, and it's weird because so much of the book is that he's the straight shooting American entrepreneur. Well, he is, and then the character that Harrison Ford plays in the movie is the CEO, founder of Tryon, the competitor that our hero gets shipped off to do some spying, and he's like more of a folksy down home kind of guy as opposed
Well, he's
to
Steve Jobs.
Yeah, he's supposed to be kind of Steve Jobsy, but he also seems like just kind of a general, I don't know, like just kind of an amalgamation of all sorts of like philanthropists, you know, like there's definitely like a Gatesy quality when they describe the parties that he has too. There's like some kind of Bill Gatesiness there. I don't know.
Well, like he's supposed to be like a little guy who wears like a mock turtleneck and
Oh.
has glasses. So
That's true.
he's like Steve Jobs if Steve Jobs had a dead kid and was into cars.
Yeah, he's like a Steve Jobs, Jay Leno hybrid.
Oh, definitely. Yeah, that's good. That's perfect.
Yeah, so blah, blah, blah. Long story short, dude gets shipped off over there. He does some spying. He spies on this lady that he's assigned to because she's working on some top secret project that Nick Wyatt wants all the details to. And then amazing things happen, but we're running super late. So we're going to take a break here. And when we come back, we will discuss this book in much more detail, including the seduction of Alana Jennings, which I'm very excited about. So, yeah, stick around. We'll be back. All right, welcome back to I Don't Even Own a Television. I am Jay Friedman. With me is Bill Hanstock. How are you?
Good, still.
Yeah, I like to ask, once every 20 minutes or so.
Things could change dramatically.
Yeah, it's good to keep abreast of, recent happenings. So we're talking about Paranoia by Joseph Finder, a tech bro espionage thriller. We kind of, talked a little bit about the general plot before. One thing I wanted to get into quite a bit is the meat and potatoes of the spy games, the spy crafting.
Yes, because it's all really bad. Like basically everything that he does that's like at corporate espionage is him like clumsily trying to break into his boss's offices, clumsily trying to put keystroke loggers onto people's computers, and then accidentally finding out that all of the information he needs is in unlocked file cabinets.
Yeah, and at one point he physically breaks into like some kind of filing cabinet station and gets security called on him and has to like start a fire in a trash can. He's very, very bad at his job, which makes me wonder why he was selected in the first place.
He was selected because he was good at bullshitting people.
But as evidenced by the events in this book, that's not very true.
True.
But yeah, I don't know. Anyway, though, my favorite thing is that basically part of his, job, his spy games require him to get close to this Alana Jennings character with the aforementioned bodacious tatas. As we kind of touched on earlier, the way he does it is in this really creepy, stalkery way. Like he's given a dossier about her, and he tries to learn about the things that she's into. And this leads to like some really, really awesome, hilarious passages of the author, describing Ani DiFranco CDs and just random things. One of my favorite parts about Alana was that it refers to her when he's first talking about reading the dossier. It says she went out to restaurants once or twice a week, and not Denny's or Applebee's or Hooters. She seemed to like high-end chefy places with names like Chakra and Alto and Buzz and Ohm. Also, she went to Thai restaurants a lot. She went out to movies at least once a week and usually bought her tickets ahead of time on Fandango. She occasionally saw your typical chick flick, but mostly foreign films. Apparently, this was a woman who'd rather watch The Tree of Wooden Clogs than Porky's. Oh, well. So, in that passage at 2 points, he seems surprised that this is a lady that doesn't go to Hooters and want to watch Porky's. Like,
perfect.
You have a very strange concept of femininity, my friend. Like, I don't know.
Like he's such that's why I'm starting to like think that it's not intentional that he's such an asshole, because not even if you're writing a character to be an asshole would he be like, oh, I like Porky's, why doesn't a broad like Porky's?
Yeah, I mean, who doesn't like Applebee's and Hooters?
Also, he tries to keep from Alana that he's working for the same company as her until page 271.
Yeah.
He's using the... This is a long book, too.
Yeah, it goes fast, but it's long.
Right. So he's using the gym at work to blow off some steam after something goes wrong. And this is...
Of course, bro.
This is how this is described in the book. A few minutes later, someone got on the machine next to mine. A woman in lycra exercise togs, a great butt. She plugged in her headphones into the monitor, fooled with it for a little while, then tapped me on the shoulder. "Do you have any volume on your set?" she asked. I recognized the voice even before I saw Alana's face. So,
oh shit!
Someone got on the treadmill next to him. He saw that this person had a great butt, but didn't know it was Alana until she tapped him on the shoulder and he turned around to see her.
Look, Adam Cassidy is a red-blooded American man.
I
scoping some butts, whatever.
I do not know how a person can get on a machine next to you and you can see their whole butt and not see who it is.
Let me amend my previous statement. Adam Cassidy is just a red-blooded American male with the neck of a giraffe.
He's Mecha Neck from Masters of the Universe.
Yeah, it's just swiveling all over the gym. Anyway, but yeah, he buys some Ani DiFranco CDs once he finds out that she's into it. Tries to listen to them. He picks them up as Tower, which they make a point of mentioning, which feels like so delightfully anachronistic now.
Book was written like 80 years ago.
It says, "I tried to listen to an Ani DiFranco CD I picked up at Tower as part of my Alana research project, but after a few cuts I ejected the thing. I couldn't stand it. A couple songs weren't even songs at all, but just spoken pieces. If I wanted that, I'd listen to Jay-Z or Eminem." Whoa, this guy is down with the zeitgeist.
Also, so two of my favorite passages happen fairly late in the book when he finally realizes that he has fallen in love with this woman. I guess in spite of his, I don't know. He's upset about having fallen in love with her, though.
Well, people in this book just feel things because you're told they feel things. They never, actually act in that way at all. So these two
passages are like, basically, I've never forgotten them because they're like, that's the moment I realized, like, oh, this is the worst book I've ever read. But he has this one passage where he remembers, like, he's like thinking about her and he's like thinking like, oh, the way she does this, the way she does that, this is what I love about her. But the things that he says are mind-bogglingly ridiculous. So this is his musing, his reflecting on being in love with her. "I'd alternate between feeling crummy, guilty about what I was doing to her, and being overwhelmed by my attachment to her, something I hadn't really felt before. Little details kept popping into my mind. The way she brushed her teeth, scooping up water from the tap with a cupped hand instead of using a glass. The graceful hollow of her lower back swelling into the cleft of her butt. The incredibly sexy way she applied her lipstick. I thought about her velvet smooth face, her crazy laugh, her sense of humor, her sweetness." So, little details, like the way she brushes her teeth like a normal human being, the way she brushes her teeth like every person has ever brushed their teeth ever.
Little details stuck in my mind, like the fact that she brushed her teeth.
Yeah, so little details, and then the little details are, she brushes her teeth like an adult.
Her back is connected to her butt.
And he uses the word butt.
I was just gonna say, I was gonna wait here. I was being polite, but I didn't realize it until you've read these two excerpts, in that, like, the author is really committed to the usage of the word butt, and I like that. I have to say, butt is a word I think that America lost something when butt fell out of vogue.
And then he fantasizes about marrying Alana and the life that they would live together. And this is the absolute worst thing. The ceremony is performed by Jock Goddard, and that's the CEO of Tryon Systems, the Steve Jobs character.
Mini Jobs.
Jock Goddard is Justice of the Peace. Alana's family is all in attendance, her mother looking like Diane Keaton and father of the bride, her sister not as pretty as Alana, but sweet, and they're all thrilled. This is a fantasy, remember, that she's marrying me. Our first house together, a real house and not an apartment, like in an old leafy Midwestern town. I was imagining the great house Steve Martin's family lives in Father of the Bride. We're both We're both rich, high-powered corporate execs after all. Somewhere in the background, Nina Simone is singing The Folks Who Live on the Hill. I'm hoisting Alana effortlessly over the threshold and she's laughing at how cornball and cliche I'm being. And then we boink in every room of the house to initiate the place, including the bathroom and the linen closet. We rent movies together while sitting in bed eating takeout Chinese food from the carton with wooden chopsticks, and every so often I sneak a look at her, and I can't believe I'm actually married to this unbelievable babe.
How come when they rented movies, they didn't just specify that one of them was Father of the Bride?
Yeah.
Like, you could have had the perfect comedy threes there, guy.
The perfect trio.
Yeah.
Her mom looks like Diane Keaton in Father of the Bride. And then we live in a house, you know, like the one in Father of the Bride.
Then we order Chinese food and watch Father of the Bride. And
then we boink, like Steve Martin boinks Diane Keaton in Father of the Bride.
Oh, boy. Yeah.
But I could not, I absolutely could, like, when I was flabbergasted when I read that the first time, because I could not believe that there was a book, an actual published book, that said boink in every room in the house, including the bathroom and the linen closet.
It is, I mean, once again, it's just kind of a failure of, like, dialect that happens throughout this book where, like, there are points where you can actually believe that these characters are real people, and then, like, especially Cassidy, because it's a first-person story and you kind of exist in his mind, like, there are just, like, moments where suddenly, like, there'll be something written where you're like, this is not something this guy would say at all, and, like, it's really jarring when it happens a lot of times, like, with the boink thing. Another thing that I noticed a lot is the awkward jargon is, like, super heavy in this in a way that, like, I don't know, like a dude like Cassidy in real life probably wouldn't refer to something as, there's an Adobe PDF copy of this in your email. But that happens a lot in this book. And I think the boink thing is another example of that, where it's just like nobody talks like that or thinks like that. I don't know.
I just now realized that this entire book is basically Bart Simpson writing as Woodrow to Mrs. Krabappel. Like, this is a 400-page version of Truly Yours is a Butt That Won't Quit.
It's true. Oh, man. Oh, it's so good. But, yeah, so anyway, the seduction happens. I think it's probably time... Here, guys, if you're gonna read this book, just stop listening now, because it turns out here's the big surprise. The two companies, they were in on it together the whole time.
Well, the companies weren't in on it together. So Wyatt tells Adam that it's now or never. He's got to steal this technology that they've been working on, and so Adam and his friend, who called his haircut Fruity, Seth.
Just Seth.
What a perfect name.
Yeah.
Seth, they dress up like window washers, rappel down from the roof of Tryon.
Because that's something that, like, schlubby teens can do, or 20-something guys.
Open up an access grate from the outside of the building. Sneak into the building onto the floor that the thing is supposedly kept. And then Adam makes it all the way into this room where the thing is, and there's nothing there. It's an empty room. And then Jock Goddard shows up, and he basically says bazinga.
Yeah. Psych.
And then he reveals that he knew that Adam was a mole all along, and he fed him bad information so that Wyatt would go out of business and buy the company that all of this stuff was pointing to, that Tryon was going to acquire.
Yeah.
So Wyatt went behind his board of directors back and spent $1 billion acquiring this company. And it turned out the company was basically, like, worthless. It was like a shell company. It didn't do anything. So basically, like, Wyatt goes out of business and gets arrested and is also kicked out as CEO of his company. And then Jock Goddard uses this leverage to buy Wyatt. So.
Oh, okay. Yeah. You're totally right.
But in the book, Goddard does it in the sense of like, well, that's just business, and I really like you, Adam, and you were a good employee, and I want you to stay on full time. And Adam's response, and the other big reveal is Alana also knew about it the whole time.
She was a double agent.
And she didn't even really like it, Ani DiFranco. Oh, snap.
Oh, damn, yeah. And so, and it's kind of posited that makes, like, the fucking 270 some odd pages of creepy stalking, like, ethically okay, because it turns out that she was actually a spy too.
And so since he's like, well, we knew it all along, and sorry we had to do this, but it was just business, and it's Wyatt or us, and I'd rather it be us. But I really like you, Adam, and I really do think of you like a son, and I want you to stay here. And Adam's reaction to this is, my dad was right about all you rich people. You're all sons of bitches. I'm out. And he
I'm gonna go have a kid and beat it.
He packs up his desk and he's like walking down the road with all of his shit. And like Alana like drives up next to him in the car, and she's like, I really do like you. Come on, get in the car. And it basically like ends right there where you're like, oh man, is he gonna sell out and get in the car and go with the people who care about him and the really amazing job that pays a bunch of money? Or is he gonna stay true to himself and say screw the man and be poor forever and miserable?
Yeah, it does. Like, it ends on that ambiguous note. The very last scene in the book is Alana like begging him to get in the car with her.
Right. And the book really does frame it as though he's doing the right thing by quitting. At the end of the day, I feel like this is a book written by a 60-something-year-old, or 40 or 50-something-year-old guy who's pretty conservative and really likes big money and old money, but thinks that 20-year-olds and teens are all about screwing the man and being true to yourself.
I think that's probably a pretty good reading, actually. It definitely does come off that way. I didn't do a lot of research about Joseph Finder, to be honest, so I can't confirm or deny that. But I will say that, man, he did a shit ton of research that mostly involved interviewing people from, like you mentioned, like Cisco, various other tech companies in the Bay Area. It seems like he did copious research for a really stupid thriller, and I guess that's admirable. I don't know.
Well, it's 90% perspiration.
That's true. All right, well, we should probably take another break here, and then we will come back and do some dramatic readings and whatnot. So,
perfect.
Stick around.
Just be thankful for what you got. Though you may not drive a great big Cadillac, diamond in the back, sunroof top, digging the scene with a gangster lean, gangster white walls, TV and television.
Welcome back to I Don't Even Own a Television. I am your host, Jay Friedman. With me again is Bill Hanstock. It's been 20 minutes or so, so how are you doing?
I'm still doing pretty well, but thank you for asking.
No problem. How's your mental state? No, I'm just kidding. All right.
No comment.
Yeah. So we've been talking about Paranoia by Joseph Finder. Wonderful book. But here's the thing. This wonderful book is also a wonderful movie. It's available.
They're equally wonderful.
Yeah, it's available right now on Netflix, so you can watch it for free. And if you really want to torture yourself, you could read the book first and then watch the movie, and try to figure out what's different, which is what Bill did. So
that's a great way to spend a weekend.
Yeah. So I mean, the movie, it's out there, it exists. Thoughts?
It's so weird.
Yeah.
And like the decisions they made are so baffling.
There's a lot of slow-mo.
Yeah, the biggest thing is like we covered before, the book was written before smartphones and the movie came out like a few years ago. So the movie, like, I guess they could have done like a period piece with the movie, but that wouldn't really make any sense. So they really went like really hard in the other direction where like everything is like really advanced, like more advanced than we are now, where like the Tryon and Wyatt like security systems are like computer imaging people and like body scanning people, and there's like some holograms and stuff.
Yeah, it's intense.
And also in the movie, Adam Cassidy is not just some shithead who works like at a cubicle job. He's like a guy who is like on a team that's responsible for coming up with new technology. And he's like, hey, we've got a really cool piece of technology, me and my team here. And they like put together a pitch for the guy, and the guy just doesn't like it. Nick Wyatt just doesn't enjoy it.
Yeah, and I think I mentioned that earlier, and I was getting it confused with the book, but they end up militarizing the technology, and that's,
No, they do it in both, but it's a different technology.
Yeah, in the movie, it pretty much like stacks up to be some like weird hologram video game system you can look at to tell what floor of a building somebody is on.
Yeah, you can. It's basically low jacking people's phones.
Yeah, that's exactly it. So in the movie does, like you mentioned, it leaves out a lot of the only redeeming qualities of the book, which I agree with you. One of the main ones is the at-home nurse that ends up dealing with Adam's dad, who's like a large black man who just doesn't fucking have time for this old racist asshole shit, and it's great.
But you also don't need that character in the movie, because in the movie, Adam Cassidy's dad is Richard Dreyfuss.
Yeah, that's
who's
true.
Who's just like a totally gregarious guy who happens to have emphysema. Like, he's just a nice blue-collar dad.
He just happens to hide like cigarettes under his couch cushion, and he's like, "Oh, Dad, are you smoking again?" Whereas like in the book, his dad's like, "You're a piece of shit, Adam. You're never going to amount to anything."
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a pretty huge difference there. Like, the juxtaposition is pretty large. And, like, when you're dealing with a book where the characters are so thin and two-dimensional to begin with, it's pretty crazy to think someone could sit down and be like, how can I make these people less fleshed out? How can I make them less human, you know?
Yeah, like, they actually... I feel like they actually make Adam a better character in the movie, because he like has some redeeming qualities and is like smart but has a short temper, and he has a dad who loves him, instead of like trying so hard to please his racist, abusive father.
Yeah, the book Adam is not likable at all. I think the movie does a better job of getting that across. But what I think is really interesting about the movie is Harrison Ford as Jock Goddard. Like that was a big surprise for me. Like, as far as casting goes.
Yeah. Like, if anything, I would, like I said, when I saw the poster or whatever, I was like, oh, well, obviously Harrison Ford plays Nick Wyatt.
Yeah.
Because, like, that would make more sense. And then Gary Oldman is totally capable of playing, like, a feeble Steve Jobs type, and he could be totally sympathetic in that role.
Yeah, it's a weird swap, and, like, it doesn't work at all. And actually, why is Ed Harris not in this movie?
I think it would have been awesome if they had really, like, tripled and quadrupled down on, like, the technical computer jargon. If only so you could have Harrison Ford say, "Get off my mainframe."
Yes. Oh man. But the movie itself, I don't know, it's free. You can watch it for free if you already subscribe to that service, so maybe consider it. I don't know. It's dumb, but it's fun.
It stars the lesser Hemsworth.
That's true. Yes, not Thor, but Lil Thor.
The other one. Gale from the Hunger Games, that one.
I think it's probably time to get into a few segments here that we do on the reg. And the first of those is dramatic reading, so here's a song.
Dramatic readings, we're gonna make it sound important. Dramatic readings, yeah, I got some words for you.
Okay, in dramatic readings, we take passages from wonderful, wonderful pieces of fiction like Paranoia by Joseph Finder and relate them to you, the listener, and all the mellifluous glory that they deserve. So would you like to go first, Bill, or should I?
I would love to go first. This is a dramatic reading of Adam sort of describing the world he lives in. And you'll find that this description of what he's talking about is in zero ways true. All right.
Let's do it.
When you work at a big corporation, you never know what to believe. There's always a lot of tough, scary macho talk. They're always telling you about killing the competition, putting a stake in their heart. They tell you to kill or be killed, eat or be eaten, to eat their lunch, and eat your own dog food, and eat your young. You're a software engineer or a product manager or a sales associate, but after a while, you start to think that somehow you got mixed up with one of those aboriginal tribes in Papua New Guinea that wear boar's tusks through their noses and gourds on their dicks. When the reality is that if you email an off-color, politically incorrect joke to your buddy in IT, who then CCs it to a guy a few cubicles over, you can end up locked in a sweaty HR conference room for a grueling week of diversity training. Filch paper clips, and you get slapped with the splintered ruler of life.
Yeah, how horrible that you aren't allowed to fucking send racist jokes through your company email.
Okay, so when you work at a big corporation, there is not always a lot of tough, scary macho talk. And
No.
also, you would never be confused that you had accidentally wound up with an aboriginal tribe who wears gourds on their dicks.
It's true. The skin tone is generally a lot lighter to begin with.
Yeah.
Also, like, that reminds me of just a little slice of life here because I live in the city. The city is San Francisco. If you're in Northern California, by the way, that was like a weird little localism there. But yeah, so I live in San Francisco, and as most people who are on the internet know, like, we're in the midst of a tech boom, which means there's a whole lot of weird, awkward conversations to overhear when you're out in public. And about a year ago, my wife and I were at a bar, and there was a guy there who was flirting with a woman next to us, who was just kind of just monologuing at her about his software job. And at one point, he very sincerely told her, it's kind of like The Wire, you know? So that's what this reminded me of a lot, the Aboriginal thing.
Oh, my God.
Yeah.
It's just like The Wire.
It is. He had some weird fucking way of describing, like, you know, their repeat customers and blah blah blah, but it was just the most ridiculous blowhardy thing. And yeah, people talk like that. It's pretty horrible. I will say, I worked at a pretty large software company in the area when I first moved here, and eat your own dog food was something that people said.
What does that even mean? I don't understand.
The idea is, like, if you're making like new technology in a big company, like, you should test it internally first. So before you release it to people, they have things they called like dog food builds, which was like, this is only people who work at the company are going to use this and see if it works before it gets released to the general public. So then they'd be like, okay, you know, here at blankety blank, we eat our own dog food. And I always thought that was really silly. So
That is the worst.
yeah. The tech world is filled with these fucking ridiculous, like, silly juvenile ways of describing like really common concepts. And then whenever people think of these like novel new ways to describe it, like they really pat themselves on the back really hard about it. So,
But I just want to point out that the expression "eat your own dog food" is in no way tough or macho.
no, actually, that's very true. It's kind of silly. Yeah, and I never heard any of the other ones ever. So, okay, so I'm gonna do my dramatic reading now. Here, this is when Adam goes to Nick Wyatt's house to have a strategy session about spying. Nick Wyatt lives in a very crazily austere mansion that's all designed in a very pseudo-Japanese way. And when they're beginning to eat dinner, this is the conversation they have. Wyatt picked up a pair of chopsticks and lifted a morsel of raw fish to his mouth, chewed thoughtfully while he stared at me. "Do you understand the superiority of the Japanese diet?" he said. I shrugged. "I like tempura and stuff." He scoffed, shook his head. "I'm not talking about tempura. Why do you think Japan leaves the world and that life... Oh, God. Sorry. He scoffed, shook his head. "I'm not talking about tempura. Why do you think Japan leads the world in life expectancy? A low-fat, high-protein diet, rich in plant foods, high in antioxidants. They eat 40 times more soy than we do. For centuries, they refuse to eat four-legged creatures." "Okay," I said, thinking. "And your point is?" He took another mouthful of fish. You really gotta get serious about enhancing the quality of your life. You're what, 25? 26. You got decades ahead of you. Take care of your body. The smoking, the drinking, the Big Macs and all that crap, that shit's gotta stop. I sleep 3 hours a night. Don't need more than that. Are you having fun, Adam? No. Good. You're not there to have fun. So yeah, that's my... I love Wyatt. He is so like Glengarry Glen Ross, Alec Baldwin, but just like completely over the top in a way that's so unbelievable. It's great.
And that's like my point is that as bad as this is, and as bad as the movie is, if you made a movie of Paranoia starring Vince McMahon as Dick Wyatt, my favorite movie.
It would be awesome.
Instantly my favorite movie. You gotta quit the Big Macs. You gotta.
At any point in this book, he's like 30 seconds away from feeding people to Komodo dragons.
Right.
Oh, man. Okay, so one more thing here I wanted to do, which was a segment, an occasional segment, called What Would They Do? So here is the song.
Sometimes the tensions are hard to divine, and others the clear as day. So tell me, what would they do?
So in What Would They Do? We're presented with a situation with a character from one of these books that we read. And in this case, I'm curious what you think. What earth-changing app would Adam Cassidy invent if he was in Silicon Valley today?
He'd create a Tata's finder.
Damn it. That was too close to mine, man.
He would invent a dating app that measures girls' compatibility to you based on whether they like Hooters or Porky's.
Ooh, I like that. Yeah, it's funny, like both of us apparently went to the same place here, which was dating app, which I guess says a lot about the way this character is drawn. I guess he's an effective character because we both had a pretty clear idea of his priorities. For me, it was definitely like a Tinder-based thing that involved a swipe that was Rage Against the Machine or Ani DiFranco.
Another thing that he would do is he would design a business appropriate backwards baseball cap.
Oh yeah, for sure. Maybe something with some corduroy and pinstripes, but not a Yankees cap.
Are you tired of not being able to wear your backwards baseball cap to the boardroom? Try Adam Cassidy's new Capco.
You can wear it with your Beta brand dress pants.
Oh, I totally forgot about this, but one of my favorite parts in the book is Adam Cassidy putting together his first big presentation for Jock Goddard, and he puts together a PowerPoint presentation.
Yeah.
And he's like, I worked on it. I just kept trying to beef it up. I put in some animated, dissolves.
And
I
some
really made it look
transitions.
slick and fancy. And then he points out, like, he puts in a slide that like dissolves to a guy, like clip art of a guy scratching his head with like question marks all around. And he thinks he's like, this is really gonna knock the CEO of a $1 billion corporation's socks off. And like the only good thing about that is like the payoff is that Jock Goddard is like, what the fuck is this shit? You're wasting my time.
Me and Clippy were up all night working on this MS Publisher performance. And I found this clip art of a confused man. And look, here's a guy looking at his phone. Yeah, it's great. That is definitely my favorite part, or one of my favorite parts as well. But yeah, I think we've spent a good amount of time now tearing into a book that I probably wouldn't recommend. I don't know. Would you recommend it?
Like I said, read Paranoia and then watch Paranoia.
Yeah.
And it's I think it's like, as much as I'm someone who doesn't believe in I don't really put much stock into like the concept of like hate reading something. I think that you should either enjoy something,
yeah,
or have no guilty pleasures, or just not do something. Don't do something because you get some sort of thrill out of not enjoying yourself.
Yeah.
But I think that Paranoia is worth reading just for how spectacularly bad it is. I think that there's definitely like you can get some ironic enjoyment out of it.
I agree, and definitely like while I do agree with you in general about the hate read thing, I think if you work in or around tech, or you live in a city with a large kind of tech population, this book has a lot of like kind of like gleefully mean laughs in it. So
it's also like a really, like, unintentionally, it's a really interesting time capsule of 2004.
Yeah.
Like where technology was at, like while this book was being written, and like how unreasonably far we've come in the 10 years since this was written.
Yeah, very true. Yeah, so anyway, though, before we close up here, I like to recommend things that don't suck. So I was curious, Bill, if you have anything the listeners should check out.
I think that the listeners should check out both the book and the movie of Inherent Vice.
Oh, yeah. Actually, man, that's a good call. Really good call.
And I definitely do recommend reading it before watching it because I really liked the book. Part of it's because I live in Southern California and it's sort of, again, a time, like a faux time capsule of what Southern California was like in the 1970s. And that was really interesting to me. And I really appreciated how good the book was, and it made me appreciate the movie a lot. But I can sort of get why, if you haven't read the book, Inherent Vice might be a little bit infuriating. So spend a weekend doing that as well after you finish the Paranoia double shot.
No, I mean, interestingly, and at the risk of getting a little pompous here, like this is a story that Pynchon like could have written and made interesting. Like it's not that it's an uninteresting story, it's just very clumsily handled. And that makes Inherent Vice a pretty cool recommendation, I think. For me, I'm just gonna go completely in the opposite direction here because I couldn't think of anything like remotely techie or anything like that I could recommend. So I'm just gonna recommend what I'm doing right now, which is I'm listening to an audiobook of Ball 4, which I had never read before. It's Jim Bouton's like diary of 1 year being a major league pitcher. This was in the 60s. There's a lot of like kind of firsthand accounts of people who are very much American myth now, like Mickey Mantle and like Lou Piniella and stuff, but they're real people in this. Most of them are assholes, spoiler. But
this was the one that was like really controversial when it came out, right?
Yeah, to the point where Major League Baseball tried to get him to sign and publish a letter saying that it was fiction after he had released it because there were so many things in it that really went counter to the image they wanted to portray. And later on, when I forget the year, but it's the lawsuit that eventually led to the formation of the Players Union, the book was introduced as evidence because there's so many passages in it about how horrible management and ownership was to the players back then. But I'm listening to the audiobook of it, which is great because Jim Bouton narrates it himself. He just sounds like a real like easygoing grandpa, and there are points in it where he's telling like funny stories and he'll just start cracking up at his own stories. And yeah, I can't recommend it enough, like especially because I'm getting all stoked for baseball season's about to start. So like it's just a good thing to listen to right now if you're a baseball dork.
Yeah,
so,
that's awesome. Go Giants.
Yeah, totally. Oh man, Hunter. Oh no. Anyway, so thanks for being here, Bill. Just if people at home want to keep in touch with what you're doing, what should they look at?
Well, I have a weekly podcast, Scientific Podcast Goes Boink. You can check that out on iTunes or check it out on progressiveboink.com. I write at SB Nation. The best way to keep up with me is by following me on Twitter at Sundown Motel because I'm on there constantly. I also have 2 movies out with Asylum, Apocalypse Pompeii, and Age of Tomorrow. And this year I will have a minimum of 3 movies out additionally. Possibly 4.
That's like super awesome. Yeah. So everybody definitely make sure you're keeping in touch with what Bill's doing. If you want to stay in touch with the show, it's IDEO TV Pod on Twitter. I don't even own a television.com. There's links to everything there. Drop us an email. I'm going to be doing a lot more email interactions here on the show soon because I know I've been horrible with that. And I want you to feel like you're part of a listening community. So email me now and hear it later. I don't even own a television at gmail.com. Thanks, everyone, for listening. And Bill, thanks for being here. It's been great.
Thanks for having me. It was awesome.
Awesome. So to everybody else out there, until next time, keep reading crap. Later.
Girl, I want you here with me, but I'm really not as cool as I'd like to be, 'cause there's a red under my bed, and there's a little yellow man in my head, and there's a truth